So, Aintree time, first day of the Aintree Festival, 3-day long festival taking place tomorrow, and Ben Fearnley is the man tasked with running through the card on day one.
Yeah, it looks a good card. A couple obviously big names missing. Bouvedere could have run, couldn't he, and was pulled out fairly recently. That's spoiled that race in a way. But yeah, it's still an excellent day. It's probably overall always the better day of the whole week for me. Obviously you've got the big race on Saturday, and the Topham's always a really good betting race on the Friday. But I think in terms of overall the general card, this is usually the best day, and it probably is going to be again with just the amount of racing and Grade 1 racing we've got on the same afternoon.
You've been reading up this afternoon. How much into your calculations have you taken the ground? Do you think there could be some funny results?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the moment I've not particularly done anything either way. None of the horses that I'm sort of going to be interested in backing either one really fast ground or really heavy ground, to be honest. I think it'll be so-so. I think it'll be the going sticks have obviously been quite low, which is a bit confusing given that the course are saying it's not that bad, the ground essentially, but the going sticks are low. I'm sure that it will dry out. They're due dry days, I think, as far as I know. And this time of year it does dry out a lot quicker. It won't be like December when they ran the big chase there, the Beecher, where it was horrible ground and it just didn't dry up because it was 1 or 2 degrees, so it just didn't happen. It'll be different because of the time of year, even though it's still pretty chilly today up here. I think it will. I don't think it will be awful ground. They've not raced on the Aintrees, any of their courses for ages, so it'll be fresh ground at the very least. So I'm hoping that it's probably not going to have a massive impact.
Okay, we'll quickly touch on the first race, which is the Manifesto Novices Chase. It isn't actually on ITV this, and it's a really tricky puzzle to solve because there's sort of two sides, and you've got a couple of runners that have run really well recently and a couple that have quite a bit to prove as well. Yeah,
I mean, I thought this would probably boil down to a match between the first two in the betting, to be honest, which are Brainpower and Surname. Finian's Oscar's been pretty disappointing, hasn't he? He seems to have lost confidence at his fences. He's probably not been campaigned in a brilliant way, I don't think, overall. Rennie's Girl has been bolting up, but in mare's company with not much to beat. I couldn't really back her. Modus isn't a Grade 1 horse. He's sort of just short of this level, so I wouldn't be backing him either. And then the Jigginstown Irish horse is a 33 shot, so I think between Brainpower and Surname, the winner will come from those two. I would just be favouring Surname personally. I think Brainpower picked up the pieces massively in the Arkle. He was ridden right out the back, and obviously the first two took each other on, and he just came through and basically was ridden for second the whole way round. He was never ridden to win the race. So I think he could be possibly flattered by that. And I think Surname, that Silly Isles form with Terrafort, I think that's good. That's a very solid form. There's a solid time figure. They both were well clear. I think Terrafort is a good horse. I'm not sure we saw the very best of him in the JLT, but he still finished second. To obviously a progressive mare and Shattered Love. So I think that Surname 11-4, 5-2. That's probably the bet in that race.
Okay, Surname there, and we'll go into the first ITV race of the day, and it's a Juvenile Hurdle Grade 1. Is it a race that concerns the Henderson pair, or would you be looking to take them on?
I think, personally, I wouldn't be itching to take both of them on. I think We Have a Dream is probably the slightly more solid. Apple Shakira was very disappointing in the Triumph, I thought. Obviously, we've heard various things about her all the time. Allegedly, she didn't ever show anything at home before her first start, but then she got absolutely drilled in the betting about 2 minutes before the off. So she obviously does show something, and there was an awful lot of hype about her as well, wasn't there? And she was obviously favourite for the Triumph for a long time, for months and months. But I was just really disappointed by that run. The hood's gone on here, could have an impact, but I think probably We Have a Dream, who missed Cheltenham and had looked quite impressive prior to that on flat tracks as well. I think that he's probably the one that you'd take her on with. They're both 2-1 roughly now, the pair, so it's probably not a race that I'll be betting in, to be honest. But if you were asking me for a selection, I think We Have a Dream is more solid with Apushkira having disappointed last time.
Okay, We Have a Dream there, and onto the third race of the card, and it all centres around Mike Bite here. He was second in the Gold Cup, and I suppose the question is, is he the right sort of price considering what looked like a really tough race?
It was a tough race. I suppose the things that are on his side are that he's had a nice time to recover. He's had about a month off. That was only his third start of the season. He hadn't really had a hard race. He didn't really have a hard race in the King George. He was idling in the closing stages there. So he's had one hard race this season. He's had a nice bit of time to recover. He should be really suited by a flat track, even more than Cheltenham. He obviously handles Cheltenham absolutely fine. He was just outstayed by a very gutsy horse who handled the conditions better than him that day. But I think flatter tracks and speedier tracks will suit him, will be his absolute ideal. I think the King George and the likes of this race at Aintree will be his sort of optimum. So I think he'll be very hard to beat, to be honest. It would be tempting to try and put something up against him because he had that hard race and thinking that he might recoil, but Nicky Henderson's a trainer that is very careful with his placing of his horses, and he would happily miss Aintree altogether with this horse. He's not a trainer that's going to just carry on running because he wants the extra prize money and things like that. He's very careful and diligent, and if he felt the horse was going to recoil and wasn't going to be good enough to win this, I genuinely think he wouldn't run him. So he's obviously come out of the race fine. So I would probably say he's going to be hard to beat. Whether you should be backing him at odds on, I'm not sure. Bristol de Mai, couldn't really have him away from Haydock. I just think Haydock suits him absolutely perfectly, and his best wins by some margin have come at that track. Definitely Red, I suppose, would probably be the danger. He's really consistent, ran fine in the Gold Cup last time without ever posing any kind of win threat. And on that form, obviously he's got a mountain to climb with Mike Bite. But he won here earlier in the season. He's a very, very solid Grade 2 horse. Probably not a Grade 1 horse, but he might win one like this if something like Mike Bite disappoints and the field in behind is not that deep, which it isn't for this race, then he could pop up. But overall, I think Mike Bite is probably solid enough, to be honest. I'm not going to back anything against him myself.
A few might remember T4 won this last year.
Yeah,
16 to 1 this time around. Is it just that this is a lot hotter this time around?
Yeah, I think so. You got the Gold Cup second in here. T4's never been a particularly popular horse, has he? In many ways, he's just never quite. He's won Grade 1 races. He's won a couple of Grade 1s, but he's never really convinced that his form is really solid Grade 1 form. So I think he'll probably be up against it. I guess Clan de Zobo is the unexposed one, really. He came into this season having disappointed at Ayr, but since then he's run some good races, beaten at Cheltenham off a lofty mark of 155 last time, been kept fresh presumably for something like this. So he could run well at big odds. I mean, if there was an each way bet, if you were looking at one at double figured price to get into the frame, I'd say Clan de Zobo might be that horse. Just a bit more of an exciting price than definitely Red. But I think Mike Bite will probably win.
Okay, on to the fourth race, another Grade 1, the Aintree Hurdle. And as you say, it's a shame that Bouvardaire's not running here. And now in Super Sunday, looks like we've got a really solid favourite.
Yeah, I was limbering up to back Super Sunday against Bouvardaire if they both lined up. Obviously, I was expecting them in the anti-post markers. It was 7-2 and odds on for Bouvardaire, and I thought that Super Sunday would be a decent bet at 7-2. Now looking at it, it's his race to lose. You look at, you've got the new one in there. Who's just a Grade 2 animal these days. A very consistent and likeable horse and very durable horse. But I'd be pretty shocked if he was good enough to win a Grade 1. Even one that doesn't seem to have much depth, which this one doesn't. I think Super Sunday, this is his ideal trip. I know he has got round over 3 miles a couple of times, including last time in the Stayers Hurdle, but they absolutely crawled round that day and he was well positioned. as they all were really, because they were still, most of the field was still on the bridle turning in. So I think that though he gets 3 miles clearly in a tactically run race, I think 2.5 is his best trip. He's got that classy Irish champion hurdle win to his name as well from even earlier in the season, showing that he's got plenty of speed. I do think he'll be hard to beat. Even money is probably a fair price, to be honest. Looking down the list, My Tent or Yours. If the ground was a bit softer, then you'd be worried about him. Lammy Surge doesn't really win races; he'll probably travel. And then you're looking at 25 to 1 shots. Cyrus Darius did run a big race here a few seasons ago, but hasn't really been in the same sort of form since. Klein won a handicap last time. You know, you're looking down the list, and it's a pretty shallow race. So I think Super Sunday will win.
Okay. Now next race is the wide open Fox Hunters, and we were talking about this race at the Yorkshire Racing Club preview night last week, and I know you're pretty sweet on one in here, so I'm just going to take it away.
Yeah, I was keen on well, they're now both at the top of the market, to be honest. We did the Yorkshire preview last week, and they were both bigger prices. I think they had the one that went off favourite for the Fox Hunters at Cheltenham was still heading the market there. I mean, Grand Vision, if the ground is testing, I think he'll run really well. He'll need the emphasis to very much be on stamina, which it probably will be. They're saying it's soft ground on that course, aren't they? And the going stick is low at the moment. So it'll probably be testing enough for him, and he is a bold jumper who should really take to these fences. He's going to be ridden prominently, I suspect. He's got JJ Codd on. He's got an excellent booking. It's hard now for me to tell people to back him at 4 to 1. I think the price has gone on that. Similarly with Ballinasloe, who was my other long range, the horse that when I was looking last week, I was thinking I might well back him. The problem with him is, again, with the couple of them coming out at the head of affairs, he's now halved in price as well. He was second in this last year and got a pretty eye-catching ride at Cheltenham. Probably just having a prep for this by the looks of it. So I do think that there's cases to be made for both of those. Now looking at the prices, the one that I would the one that I'm going to advise people to back, and the one that I will be backing myself at the current prices, is Barra Killer, who is 12 to 1 and a bit bigger, I think, in some places. Now he's got a very different profile to a lot of these horses in that he he's very lightly raced under rules and in hunters. He was formerly trained by Evan Williams. He has some really strong form going back a few seasons ago. He's still with the Ruckers, but he's moved to Fergal O'Brien, who's done so well with similar recruits. He's turned horses inside out, got them back to form, etc. He's just a brilliant trainer and one who's proved himself time and time again at getting these horses who are out of sorts back to winning ways. Now he got this horse Barra Killer back to winning ways the first time out at Bangor back in February. Now it's a pretty solid run. He was then beaten at odds on in a bit of a joke race last time, a 3-runner race. I would just ignore that. You're more at this horse, with this horse, you're more looking at his form going back a couple of years ago when he was competitive in big field handicap chases. Zach Baker's a positive booking, definitely. He's ridden in all for both of his other starts in the hunters that he's running. So I thought at these prices now at 14 odd to 1, Barra Killer was my idea of the winner, and the bet and the value in the race. But I mean, look, I did make the case for Grand Vision and Ballinasloe last week when the prices were bigger, so it's just a case of whether you prefer to back something at double figure price in this sort of field, which I do. I think the front two have got good chances, but I think Barra Killer is the bet, basically.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'm just looking down the field as well. It'd be interesting to see how Gallery Exhibition goes, because of course got Mr. Guy Disney on board.
Exactly.
Jockey,
that's an interesting story, isn't it? Definitely.
Be some story if he could win. So one race to go anyway. On to the Red Rum Handicap Chase, another tough handicap. And I was looking through the form here, and plenty of these have had recent runs at Cheltenham, and quite a few have run well as well. Yep. So how do you sort through the form in a race?
Yes, it's a competitive race. King Socks, I felt that he at Cheltenham had every chance. He ran well. He's he's obviously back in trip, which might help him. I felt like that was probably his target. David Pipe said it was that was his best chance of the meeting. He was very well backed, and he ran well without winning. I would be sort of looking at him and thinking 4-1, I'd probably want to oppose him. The Inval ran really well at Cheltenham, finished 4th. Has won a big field handicap here before. Has finished, I think, 3rd, 2nd in this race last year, from £3 higher in the weight. So he's the obvious one, the Inval. The one thing minor concern you might have with him would be the ground, because he is, although he ran well at Cheltenham last time on pretty desperate ground. If it is on the soft side, he probably wants really proper spring ground to be at his very best. So I can definitely see the case for him. Van Doren was fairly eye-catching last time at Kempton, I thought, and he's run well in this race before. The one that I've backed is at a big price is Ben Telemar of Charlie Longsdon's. Now, he was available at sort of 16s, maybe a bit bigger earlier on. Now, he hasn't had many starts for this yard, and I feel like he's probably got more to offer at some stage, and it might well be in this sort of big field, well-run scenario, because he's quite a strong traveller, goes with plenty of zest. If he can settle in behind a strong pace at 2 miles, I think that will probably suit him. The key bit of form with him is his second at Huntingdon in February behind Terrafor, who obviously won that Grade 1 and then went on to finish second in the JLT. He was beaten 10 lengths that day, and Terrafor won really well, but I still think it was quite revealing how Ben Telemar was able to keep tabs on him for a long way. He got tired and was well beaten after trying to match strides with a proper Grade 1 horse. So that was easily forgivable, and the pair were miles clear of everything else in the race. And he's now £1 lower in the weights, and he's a big price for this. I think he needed his reappearance. He was back off a couple of months off when he ran last time at Kempton, travelled and didn't find. I think that was basically to prep him up for this. So I think that he is definitely worth a bet at sort of double figure price in the Red Run.
Okay, last of all, I will drop this on you. Looking ahead to Saturday's Grand National, has anything caught your eye so far? Are you still very much studying?
I was speaking to someone earlier about this, it's one of those where most years I've got some sort of fancy for the race and feel strongly about something, even though it's a national and you can't really feel that strongly about anything in it. But this year I'm really not that keen on anything.
The same.
Yeah, the one that I have backed, anti-post, is Manella Rocco, who obviously missed Cheltenham, missed the Gold Cup, which I thought was a positive. The negative with him is that his yard has been very, very quiet for a long time. Usually John Joe O'Neill springs back to form in the spring when the better ground comes around. Maybe because the ground hasn't really changed, it's still been very deep. For whatever reason, he just hasn't really come back to form like he normally does. But I think Manella Rocco's basically looked like a national horse since he won the 4 miler at Cheltenham a couple of seasons ago, beating Native River. I think that I couldn't really not back him if he ran in the national, which it looks like he's going to now. I think Noel Feely's booked, which is positive for me. The ground they'll probably want it to dry out plenty. He's shown his best form in the spring. But that would be my idea. But my tentative selection would be Manella Rocco. But I do really think it's hard to really fancy anything strongly. I think there's a lot of them that I can write off. I don't think Black Lion will stay. See You at Midnight had a very hard race at Newbury. I thought unnecessarily hard race. You're looking down. The Last Samurai's had his goes in this race. He'll probably run well. Do I think he'll win? Probably not. So yeah, it's trickier than ever, I think. But I'll say Manella Rocco tentatively.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay.